So in this film we're looking at how to change a photograph into more of a cartoon stylization. So basically, as you can see here, the original, and then what we've got is a multiple smart object below giving different texture effects to allow us to actually go in and have a little bit more of an artistic kind of look, but with a cartoon kind of edge. So to do this, we really want to be able to actually build it into an action. So it kind of pretty much flows. That way we can actually then apply the same technique to different images, whether it's with the same background or not the same background. And this is just a couple of examples of actually using the action that we've made up to kind of really create that look and feel. Now, one of the things we're going to be looking at the end is why we're creating the image into a smart object. It's so that in the post we can actually go back in and actually change things. So for instance, what we're looking at here is obviously an image with all the multiple changes going on. But in fact, the smart object is a separate layer by itself. So as you can see here, basically this is the pink layer behind. And if I oversave this image, this is the original kind of cutout and so on. If I just go in and make this image in the selection, say green, as we just done now, as soon as I save this image, and then I click back onto its other cartoon effect, you can see the green has updated itself. So basically, when we're working with smart objects, remember when we double click into the smart object itself, it then opens up its kind of original, its new original, its adjustment. It's from here we can then go in and change stuff. Let's go into, there you go, just so you can see it again. Because even though it's good to have an action that plays things, you really want to know go and how to adjust it. So what we're going to be doing is actually taking an image from scratch and just going all the way, okay? But you have to understand why we're using the smart object in the beginning is so that we've got control of the post-production following. Right, as I said, let's close these down and let's just go from scratch. So let's throw away this grouped kind of effect that we've got here, and we're back to the original image. So in a step-by-step, really the first thing we want to do is make sure that we're working on the shortest edge of around about 2000 pixels. Now, as this is already square, the image size is pretty much 2000 pixels on both sides. But if we had an image that was, say, 3500 by 2100, just go in and change the pixel width, so in other words the 2100, whether it's high or tall, to actually create the image size that you need. All right, so you don't need to actually have a square image to actually perform this in any way. The action isn't dependent on that. So I'm just going to press OK. You can see the image size is 2000 on one edge, which is key because the filters that we're going to be applying in the artistic way, they're basically going to give their effect based on a pixel edge. So what are we going to do? The first thing is duplicate the layer. And we wouldn't be in the action point at this point, even though I suppose you could be. I'm just going to make a very, very quick selection, and I'm going to grab my object selection tool, and at the top here I'm going to select subject. Photoshop is now going to look at what it thinks a subject within the image, and obviously if there was little parts that were missing, then we actually just go in and add them in anyway. I'm just going to now add in a layer mask down on the layers palette, and now we can see here. And then if I wanted to adjust this layer mask in any way, I can either right click on the actual layer mask, or as I've got the properties panel up anyway, I can hit select and mask. And just because it's the cartoon edge, I really don't need to kind of be too particular on this because it's going to be a funky kind of edge effect anyway. I'm going to increase the radius to 10. And then basically I'm going to 15 in the smooth. Feather is going to stay at 0. The contrast is going to go up to about 15 as well. And then I'm just going to basically press OK. So once that's done, basically what we've got here is kind of selected around the image. That's what we've done. We've given a bit of a soft edge. We've added on the edges as well. And now we've got to decide on what we're going to do. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually select onto the background layer and basically create a solid color background. This can be any color you want. I'm just going to pick white for now. I'm going to press OK. Now, if we wanted to create the funky shapes into the background, this is where we could pick up a pen tool or whatever it would be and basically create something in the background. We can do that either now or later on because we can work within the smart object itself. For now, I'm just going to stay as we are. So first of all, I want to select these two layers and I want to create a smart object out of them. Okay, so on layer 1, right click it, convert to smart object, and basically I'm not going to change the name on here. That's because my action is going to be looking for layer 1, layer copy, and layer 2, and so on. So what are we going to do? So let's run through this manually because the action is exactly the same, I promise you. First thing we're going to achieve is just go into the layer 1 and we're going to duplicate it twice. So Control J twice. And then we're just going to switch these off. And then we're going to select layer 1. Now remember, that's important if it's a part of the action that you're actually running because it's going to record everything and you want it recording on the correct layer. Next, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to just work on each of the different layers to give the different effects that we want. So in layer 1, we're just going to go up into filter and we're going to go into filter gallery, and under the artistic level, it's already open here anyway, we're going to click on poster edge, and then in the poster edge, for me, my value is going to be 0, 0, 2. Just going to press OK to that. And that's going to give us a little bit of this solarization caricature, as you can see, of the poster edge. It's familiar. And then we're going to go into filter, sharpen, and an unsharp mask. And this is just down to taste now. I basically picked up this technique years and years ago. Can't remember from where, but it's going to involve several different effects that were going on top. So that was just 90%, 5 and 10 threshold. Next thing we're going to go is into the oil painting. So we're going to go into filter. Now in this case, I'm in the stylize and clicking into oil paint here rather than going into the filter gallery. And depending on, again, the look, pretty much was set here 4301000, so everything else is 0 below. Obviously, if you use the oil paint technique quite a lot, and probably it remembers it from the last time you used it, within the action you want to go and record the stylization, the brush size and so on. And then we're just going to press OK. So that is 430.1000. It's going to press OK. And then lastly on this layer, we're just going to go up and sharpen again. So that is going to filter, sharpen, unsharp mask. Just going to do it a little bit less now. Anywhere between 50 and 60%, depends on you. Still keep to the 5 pixels, but you can reduce the threshold down by around about half. Pressing OK. And then out of what we've just done here, of course, if we just click that on and off for a minute, you can see where we've come in a very short time. So if I just click on the top layer, you can see what it was like after the cutout. Now we've actually applied all the kind of the painterly effect with it and so on with it, and we're pretty strong already. You know, if you wanted to, you could pretty much stop there now. But let's just take it up another run. So clicking onto layer 1 copy and selecting it within here. Then we're just going to go into once more filter gallery. We're going to select those poster edges again. Just going to give it a slightly different setting. So 0 and then 3 and then 6. I'm just going to press OK. Now remember, this is a smart filter and not a filter. Why? Because we're working on a smart object. So at any stage, I can click back into the filter I've just used and adjust it. That's the key point of using smart objects as well. So what else we got? We need to add the painterly effect now within here. So we're just going to go into filter once more, stylize, go into the oil paint. We can pretty much, it's the same effect anyway. Just going to press OK to that. This is really designed to add more of an edge kind of sharpening, if that makes sense. And then once that's done, we're just going to change the blend mode. So remember, we had no blend mode on the other one, but this one we are going to have a blend mode. And I find it's better in an overlay. And just reduce down the opacity somewhere between 25 and 30%. Again, depends on your taste. But obviously, if you're building it into an action, it's going to be an overall effect. But remember, we can go back in and actually double click into it and change the opacity at any stage. So as you can see here now, if we just zoom in and we just switch that one off, we see the underlay. You can see it's just added like an almost a black edge into the image itself. Okay. Next one we want to do is switch the top layer back on again. And this time we're just going to go to add a high pass filter. So a real edge blackness now. So remember to go there, we go into filter, other, and into high pass. You can pretty much just run a high pass of 2 as normal. We're just going to set the overlay now once more to overlay. And then once that's done, if you do need to actually change the opacity down, you can. But remember, everything that we're recording is adjustable even within the action, because we're not going to flatten it. But now we're going to go in and add some adjustment layers above here. So basically going to go into on the layer, we're going to go in and first of all perhaps do a vibrancy, just increasing those colors up just a little bit more perhaps. And then I'm going to go in and add a levels adjustment. This is just going to make it just a little bit brighter. That's pretty good. And then we're just going to go and add a lookup color. In this case, we're just going to go to the classic 3 strip. And then what we're going to do is just reduce this down fully to about 50% here. And then as far as the lookup layer, it depends on how you want it to actually appeal. But you can see here it's added a little bit of a redness towards them all. So if the vibrancy was too much now, we just click back onto the vibrancy again, drag it back down, as well as the saturation, and we can kind of undercook it again. So basically what we've just done there, if we were to just grab all those together for a second, let's grab all those and just group them, we can quickly see how we've changed it straight away into a real kind of caricature and everything else with it. But remember, the benefit in here is the smart object. And so if we wanted to affect anything, so there's something in the eye there, if we want to get rid of that, we could retouch that out off on the one, and then it would actually be removed on them all. But I mentioned to you before about how we can just go into the smart object, any of them, because they're a duplicate of each other. And basically if I click any of these images, it opens up the kind of the original, as it were, once we cut it out. So remember, when we converted it into a smart object, it was a combination of the fill color and the masked image itself. So if I was to click onto the solid color for a minute, and I basically just pick up my pen tool, making sure it's on shape, choose the color that you want, let's go pink, making sure the stroke is off, and then just using the likes of the pen tool to create some dramatic shapes. There There we go. And then as soon as I save that, so Control S, I don't have to leave this image open at all. Okay, I can close this image down because what it's done, it's updated the smart object that is here. So in the same way, if I go back to this photograph, and let's say with this little bit of the face here, and where we've got that little bit of a darkness within the eye. So if we want to just, let's say, just dodge it for now, to lighten it, let's go to the mid-tone. Oh, wrong mark. Dodge it mark, not burn it. There we go. So we just lighten that there. If we save it once more, it's saving that across the whole of all the smart objects with it. And what it's now done, it's slightly smudged that look that we had. Okay, so it's just giving you a different kind of look and feel. So once more, because we've got all of these adjustments that we can go in and change, just by double clicking onto them, we can create a dynamic image. So if we'd recorded that into an action, we can basically have the control. So let's just go and get another image. Just going to open up one of him again. So perhaps this is a series for a young actor. Then all I've got to do is just go through that first thing that we did, duplicate the layer, make my selection. Then going in and making that mask. Just adjusted my mask again. Remember, at this point we could start to add in the differences as far as the changes even within the actual action here at this point. Press OK. Then we go in and add that solid color in. Let's go and add something a little bit more dynamic. Move it below the bottom. Then this is the one that we make these two layers or more layers into the smart object itself. So right click in, convert to smart object. And then once I've done that, I can just hit my cartoon effect. It duplicates it, and even though we can't see what's going on, Photoshop is working behind the scenes now, actually doing all the things that we did. So within a short point of time, we've created it. So you can see that perhaps the levels is just a little bit too bright on the face there. Just take that back down just a little bit more. And it's a quick way for us to create quite cartoony kind of images.